perfect is the enemy of growth. And that's the hardest thing to get over when you're trying to grow. Just start, do something, take a calculated risk, just activate.
Welcome to Built for Profit podcast, where entrepreneurs share real stories and strategies that actually work.
We're here to inspire, challenge, and give you the playbook to profit with purpose. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
As we researched our brands, we talked about, are we going to go do some cold plunges or are we going to go do some saunas? And so this was at the top of the list. We'll let you know how that goes in a future episode, if everyone does the cold plunge or how that works out. But today we wanted to talk about the health and wellness space. Ron Taylor runs a SweatHouz, which you're going to hear about, but also with Franchise Authentic, he leads that as well, which is consulting and really showing expertise in the franchise area. And so a wealth of knowledge. We could have probably made this interview 2 hours, but we won't do that. So we want to welcome Ron Taylor to the Built for Profit podcast. So welcome, Ron. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. So I gave it away a little bit with the cold plunges and the saunas, but tell us in your own words just about SweatHouz and a little bit about the brand.
Sure. So SweatHouz, as we like to say, is a contrast therapy studio. A lot of people don't really understand what that is. So we simplify it and say it's infrared sauna, vitamin C shower, and cold plunge. So the studio is comprised of multiple suites, and each one of the suites has a clear light infrared sauna, a vitamin C shower, and a 50-degree plunge, cold plunge. So the goal is to complete all three modalities when you're in that suite for 1 hour. It's completely private. It's luxurious. It has an infotainment center. You can sync your phone to it. We say that it is the healthiest form of relaxation and the best hour of your week.
All right, Ron, I'm leaning in here. I told you I wouldn't put you in the spot, but welcome to the spot. So an hour, this sounds great. But how long are you going to be in that cold plunge? I mean, like that. Yeah, that sounds a little intense.
And that's always the first question, right? So typically your maximum medicinal benefit for a cold plunge at 50 degrees is 11 minutes per week, and it's cumulative. So my advice to anyone is get yourself in that unit probably 2 to 3 times per week. That way you're going to get 30 to 35 minutes in the sauna. You're going to get a vitamin C shower. And then in those 2 to 3 visits, you should get to your 11 minutes of cold plunge per week. The reason that's important is because all the data suggests for both sauna and cold plunge that if you can get yourself in a sauna about 9 times per month, studies suggest that you can lower your risk of all-cause cardiac events by 51%. You can lower your risk of all-cause mortality by 40%, and you can lower your risk of dementia by 31%. So it is dramatic to be in a sauna on a consistent basis. And then you're going to get in that cold plunge, and you're going to get improvement in what we call AMEN, which is attention, mood, and energy. And you're going to get that right now. You're going to get that right away. So there's your acronym, right? Attention, mood, energy, now. And then long-term benefits is you're going to get a reduction in inflammation. And as we know, talking to dietitians, physicians, the core cause of a lot of our problems all stem from inflammation, whether it's arthritis or inflammation in the food that we eat. That's why we try to cut out processed sugars and a lot of your carbohydrates, because they're causing internal inflammation in your body. Well, stick yourself in 50-degree water and you're going to get some of that inflammation to come down. You're going to let out a hoot or a holler, but you're going to get that inflammation to come down.
And I'm so glad he clarified it, Elizabeth, because when he said 11 minutes, I was like, this is some serious stuff. When he said he spread it out, I was like, okay, all right. You know, I'm as macho as the next person, but 11 minutes I think would be a little intense.
Yeah, I said, you're talking to the guy who only did 34 seconds the first time I ever did it. And now I do it 5 minutes completely submerged up to my neck. So you'll get there. You can figure it out.
So 35 is my initial launch just to beat Ron. Okay, got it.
Correct. So, and is there a minimum essentially? I mean, of course, I'm sure the longer the better to have more time to bring down that inflammation, but it's like, if you do it for 15 seconds, is that actually getting any results or?
Not a lot. You're going to get a little bit, right? Like when you get in cold water like that, your body reacts a specific way because your body doesn't know the difference between you being in this luxurious suite at SweatHouse or if you just fell into an icy river, right? Like you fell through the ice. It doesn't know. So the minute you get in that cold water, your liver is going to release what are called basically like shock proteins and your dopamine. And that is going to happen immediately. And that's where you get a lot of the benefits from. You also get a lot of benefit from not hopping back in the sauna after you get out of the cold plunge, because as your body naturally raises its core temperature back up to 98.6, you're getting a lot of like brown fat activation. You're getting the dopamine release, like your body's natural mechanisms of getting itself back to homeostasis plays a big role on both your short-term and your long-term well-being. But you do need to get to that cumulative number. And oddly enough, once you get over 11 minutes, the curve really kind of levels out and you don't get a lot of additional benefits. That's kind of where you should be because that's what clinical evidence suggests is best.
Yeah. Which is what we want to go off of is clinical
Yeah.
evidence. And it sounds important that that's for the maximum benefit. That's the order you need to do it in. Sauna, then the vitamin C shower, which I would like to do a vitamin C shower. And then
Sounds
the cold
amazing.
plunge. Like
Yeah.
that order does matter.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, because you're getting a lot of the benefits on the back end. Like I said, when the body raises its temperature naturally, you get activation or what are called brown fat cells. Your largest concentration of brown fat is when you're a baby because your autonomic nervous system can't regulate your body temperature, so it has to be regulated through brown fat. As you get older and the respiratory system, circulatory system, everything takes over those functions, that brown fat starts to dissipate. Well, the body's raising of its temperature after those cold water and those shock proteins go into the body, you can get some activation of the brown fat cells. And that's how cold plunge can assist in weight loss, right? You can't eat 7,000 calories a day in cold plunge and lose weight. That's never going to happen. But
We tried
if
it.
you were,
It didn't work.
you're right. It
What
didn't
records
work.
are
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So-
right. So do you, and I'm sure you have a ton of stories that you could share on this, but I'm really interested. Can you share one story of someone that's been in the spa and they've either shared their transformation with you or you've seen it firsthand?
Sure. I mean, a lot of you guys know, like I'm a member of BNI. So a large contingent of BNI members are members at SweatHouse, right? They're entrepreneurs, they're busy, they need to take care of themselves in order to be able to function at a high level. And there's one gentleman, and he is a mortgage loan broker. And after we had our grand opening, he came in, he did his founding member visit, and he has an app that tracks his sleep. And he had not gotten a full night's sleep in 142 consecutive days
Wow.
until the day he sauna and plunged at SweatHouse for his founding member visit. That was the first day the app told him that he got a full night's sleep. So, those anecdotal stories are incredibly meaningful to me as the owner because as I get older, I still like running businesses. I still like generating profit, but I like the thought of doing it and through a mechanism that allows people to get better, right? To help. So when I hear stories like that, I mean, that had a profound impact at the very beginning of us getting started to let us know like, hey, we're on the right track. We've got a good brand here. This is a great system and modalities that can really genuinely help people because if you can solve people's sleep problems, you can solve a lot of their other problems too.
It's definitely profits with purpose, making an impact. I didn't even think about the sleep, but sleep's really important.
I didn't
Big deal.
either. And you sharing that, and like for anyone, Shay and I are both parents. We know what it feels like to function without great sleep. And it's almost like once you've done that and then you've had great sleep, you're like, wow,
There's something to this.
you feel alive. I remember driving to work one time after my first son was born, and I was driving and I like had a creative idea and I felt energetic. And I was like, I forgot what this felt like. Like you get used to being sleep deprived or feeling low energy or some of the things that you've referenced, and you almost forget what it feels like to feel that vibrancy. So I can imagine almost walking out of a SweatHouse and having some great ideas and just feeling that vibrancy back. So we're visiting one night.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. So Ron, how did you get here? So then you've got a little history being in the franchise industry. So how did you get here?
I mean, really, entrepreneurial, my journey started with my dad, right? He owned a restaurant. If your dad owns a restaurant, you work in a restaurant. Like that's pretty much the way it goes, right? So I'm bussing tables and washing dishes at 13. I'm running his catering business at 18. I'm running his restaurant at 20. I got an accounting degree from West Virginia, lasted 7 minutes in Big Six accounting, like literally, like it was horrendous. Like wearing a suit. Like, this is about as dressed up as I can get, by the way, just in case you're
And we
wondering.
were impressed. Thanks for doing
Unless I go to a funeral or a wedding, like this is about as dressed up as I get. So went back to working in restaurants. I had my first exposure to franchising when I was running food service for a convenience store chain. So I oversaw Arby's, Taco Bell, Subway, Steak Escape, Godfather's Pizza, and Baskin Robbins. So
Wow, that's a mouthful.
I got I got
can
trained in all those brands. I got to meet Fred DeLuca at my training, which, I mean, this is the
Wow.
guy that scaled a business to 40,000 worldwide locations, right? It's like a baseball kid meeting Babe Ruth or something like that. It was amazing. So I got my first exposure to franchising there. Kind of ended up in the pharmaceutical industry for 9 years because, kids cost money, and I had to do that for a little while. But I didn't see that going anywhere. And that's when I went to my wife and I was like, let's start a business. Let's start a franchise. And we found Edible Arrangements and opened our first Edible Arrangements in 2006, scaled that to 9 locations at one time. Also added on 3 additional restaurant locations for a brand called The Simple Greek. So I had like 13 locations of businesses, and then I started to then the pandemic happened and we muddled through that. Actually, Edible Arrangements has never been busier than the pandemic. It was the biggest financial win for, Edible Arrangements. I had stores that doubled in volume overnight with Edible
Why do you think
Arrangements.
that
So
is? What was the
couldn't
tipping?
go anywhere. You couldn't go anywhere. So you couldn't go to a funeral. You couldn't go to see somebody came home from the hospital. You couldn't go to somebody for a birthday. So while everybody was trying to figure out how to deliver, we had the United States' largest fleet of small refrigerated delivery trucks.
Mhm.
And then I was fortunate to exit that brand in 2023 and actually exited as the all-time leader in total gross revenue with that brand. I did a little over 53 million with Edible Arrangements in my 18 years there.
Nice. So you're giving
Had
experienced wisdom here for, collapsing that curve of learning to get profitable sooner.
Yeah,
Period.
sometimes you just got to be in the right place at the right time, right? We all like to think that we're really that smart. We're not, but when opportunity meets preparation, then there's a lot of things that can happen that are really good, right? So the Edible Arrangements in Youngstown, Ohio is the busiest Edible Arrangements in the franchise system for 7 years in a row. Even after I sold it, it continues to be number one. And if I would have given you 100 guesses on where the busiest Edible Arrangements in the United States was, you would have never guessed Youngstown, Ohio.
I'm glad you
That
didn't
would have
ask.
never
We're
happened.
embarrassed us, right?
Mhm.
Always the best stories. So you exit there. You're looking for your next challenge, and with your expertise and your background, you probably have access to a whole bunch of franchise brands, emerging and everything in between. And how did you go? This is the one for me, like Match.com.
So, after I sold, I had some downtime. So I kind of became a consumer of all things franchise related podcasts, email lists, like whatever. And I caught Jamie Weeks, who is the founder of SweatHouz, on a podcast with the Wolf of Franchises. And I really found it interesting, not only about the brand and being in the wellness space, but also kind of like how he was building out the brand, like very small group of franchisees, all multi-unit owners, not like onesie twosies. And that interests me because, the old saying is if you're the smartest person in the room, or if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I wanted to get in a room where there were some people that had some serious gravitas, and I knew this was probably going to be a brand that did that if they were only going to sell to multi-unit owners. And boy, was I right. I've really learned a ton from the other franchisees in the SweatHouz brand. One guy was a former CMO of Lamborghini.
Wow.
So he's amazing. But SweatHouz came upon me, and I liked the message, I liked the idea. And again, I love the opportunity to create a reoccurring revenue model brand that I knew was going to give people a genuine opportunity, non-pharmacological, to get better.
Since you've changed brands, franchises, obviously you've worked in non-franchise industries and you've worked with a lot of successful people, I can tell by this list and this conversation. How would you say, Ron, your view of success has changed from maybe when you first started, or has it not?
Yeah. Yeah, I think when it first started, like, I started young, and I'm uber competitive. Like, I hate to lose. I hate losing. I hate losing more than I like winning, right? Like, I hate to lose. So people always ask me, "Oh, you've accomplished. Why?" I'm like, "Because I just wanted to look at everybody and be like, I'm first, you're second." That's changed a lot for me. Like, I've mellowed, right? Like, that's not that important to me. So I'd say at first I measured it about like, how did I perform? Like, what did my bank account look like? Was I number one in sales? Did I win franchisee of the year? Things of that nature. Like, those things were really important to me. But I think after reflecting on my successes at Edible Arrangements, it wasn't so much the awards, it was the people,
Mhm.
right? And I like my director of operations for Edible Arrangements, when she started, she never had a job, like, never worked. And she won the first ever Manager of the Year award at Edible Arrangements in 2013. And the CEO gave her a check, the founder and CEO gave her a check for $5,000. Like, that's big money for her,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Right.
so that
Uh-huh.
was, I was more excited about that. We won franchisee of the year that same year. I was more excited that she won manager of
Mhm.
the year than I was that we won franchisee of the year that year. So, and then those people are still in my orbit today, right? Like, they've used that to propel. They have a family owned lawn care business. She now owns her own catering business, right? From everything that she learned working for our brand and doing the things that she did. I have relationships with people that I'm incredibly close to. I mean, I go to their kids' graduations and things like that. So I think early in my career, I probably really evaluated it monetarily. Now I look at it very, very different, right? More about people, family, the joy. I'm looking for things I'm going to have fun with, and things that where I can help other people. And again, I think that was the allure of consulting at this juncture in my life too, is because I can help other people kind of propel themselves in these natures. So I tell everybody the best day of my professional life was when I resigned from my pharmaceutical job and went full time working for myself. So
What do you feel like shifted that? Was it having a family yourself? Was it seeing other people's success and realizing, wow, it feels good to have contributed to that? And it's not even my own success. And that actually feels better than I thought. Or, how do you feel like you landed there? Because that's where a lot of people live, I believe.
Mhm.
They first start the accolades, the things that we're reaching for, the things that we believe we're after. And then usually something happens and we realize, there's some other things, not that those aren't still impressive and important, but other things are actually more fulfilling. And I think that's kind of the difference, like the goal and then the
yeah,
fulfillment aspect.
I really think it was my family. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was just being able to, like, I never missed anything. I never missed anything.
Mhm.
Like, I was at every, I don't care if it was like the fourth grade recorder concert in the middle of the day or whatever. Like, I was there. Like, I was always there. And I, I knew it was important to be there. And then I was an avid fan of This Is Us.
Mhm.
And I remember Kevin talking about Jack, and he was like, "My dad was the king of showing up.
Oh,
He
wow.
always showed up." Right.
What a
And
statement.
I'm like, I hope my kids remember me that way. Right. Like, as the guy who always showed up, who would leave work and let it sacrifice and whatever and just come, like that. My son was an avid basketball player. Right. He would play around Valentine's Day. I really didn't have time to go.
Mhm.
I went.
Yeah.
Right. And then I might go back to work until 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But I didn't miss that game.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So as you start to get perspective there, because I got to be honest with you, my kids could care less how much money I make. They don't care.
This is true.
You know,
Until they want
and
to. Oh.
right. And they're in their 20s. I have a good relationship with them, so I can see that their development was probably more focused on the fact that I was around and present than it was, successful. They don't really care.
Yeah.
And there's so many good things there. I mean, that just resonates with us because, geez, Ron, how many people do you know? And when they come to you about seeking a franchise or getting that validation for the brand, that they want to go and be self-employed and have this adventure so they have more time with their family and their
Mhm.
kids and more money to do things with their kids and family.
Right.
And it doesn't always work out that way.
It doesn't, and that's the hard thing to make them understand is like, you're not necessarily going to have more time with them. You just might have the right time with them.
Yes.
Right? Like, because you might have to go back to work. Like, don't get hyper fixated on more time, especially at the beginning. Like at the beginning, it's like raising kids, right? Like they're 24/7. You're feeding them. You're changing. Like
They're needing
it's
those
all the
things.
time. And then, I mean, once they get to be teenagers, if you buy them a car, hell, you hardly ever see them, right? I mean, like they just want some money. Hey, Dad, Venmo me 20. I'm going to Chipotle, right, or whatever it may be. Like business can be the same if you build the right infrastructure and you do it the right way. But I really try to tell everybody that who asks me for advice. I'm like, it's not going to necessarily right away be more time. What you're looking for is the right time because you're going to be married to this business too. And the way we describe the business to the kids is we told the kids that the business was a kid too. It was a member of the family, right? Just like the dog. So the dog is, I mean, we're pet people. The dog is incredibly important. If the dog gets sick, the world stops. We take care of the dog. Just like if you're sick, we stop everything, we take care of you. If the business is sick, then we prioritize the business. Every family member is going to shuffle in the priority list depending on what's necessary. And the business is just a member of the family. Sometimes it gets our attention, sometimes it doesn't. It's just the way it works.
So powerful, Ron. That is going to resonate
Yeah.
with so many people because a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that. We talk a lot about the balancing aspect and that you are always balancing. But even when we understand that it is not always a 50-50 and it's never a 50-50, but even when we know that, how it comes through to other people or the kids, I just love that analogy and I'm using it.
Yeah. And we're totally, we'll give you credit for like a month and then we're stealing it. We're just going to roll into it.
I'm royalty free, so don't worry about it. Like, just go ahead, call it your own. But
think
I
about
mean,
how many, think about how many businesses, Ron, that actually, I mean, it is like a baby to them. I mean, they have usually invested more money than they did in their home in this business. It's significant, right? They have those butterflies, excitement. It's like the first day of school and Christmas all wrapped up in one, you know, right? And they're going to do that. And it's great for someone to give them real expectations of, you know, telling the family this is a business, is a community of what we need to support this new baby in our family.
yeah, I mean, you know, we really focused when the kids were young to make sure we had dinner together like every evening. Like that was a high priority for us. And these were the things we discussed, right? Like we discussed like how the business plays a role in the family, how it's a member of the family. And like we would say, hey, look, we want you to do your best, but if you don't get straight A's, your life's not going to change, right?
Yeah.
Your life's going to change if you like are on your phone and you run over somebody on a bicycle. Like that's going to change the trajectory of your life. A B in science is not going to change. It's not going to change it. And you're talking to the guy that hated getting B's. Like I would freak out and hyperventilate, right? And 50 years of perspective has let me know that had I just relaxed a little bit and gotten a couple B's, I would still be sitting on this podcast with you guys right now. My life would be zero difference in my life. None.
How do you think that your kids' perspective on either entrepreneurship or just any of that has shifted, seeing what you and your wife has built? Because you guys have built this together too. So I think we're giving her credit.
Yeah,
but they do not want to own businesses. Like I don't think they want to own businesses. Not with a large quantity of employees. My son is he's pursuing avidly, trying to get a PhD to be a licensed clinical psychologist. He graduated from undergrad with a 3.9 grade point average. He did great, but getting into a PhD is not easy. Yeah. So he's moved to Harrisburg for a part-time job and research. And now he's moving back to Morgantown for a full-time job in research. Like which I'm like, just chase it down, man. Like just do. And we encourage that, right? Like move, be active, try things, fail. You're good. Don't sweat it, right? Like we are not like, you need to get a good stable job. Like I'm not, I mean, no offense to the boomers, but that's boomer stuff. Like we don't do that. Like we don't run. I mean, my daughter, she's now decided education, college wasn't for her. She's working on her portfolio. She's a really talented artist and she's going to start a apprenticeship to be a tattoo artist because that's what she wants to do. So, I mean, now I'm like, you're going to be an entrepreneur, right? I mean, essentially she's like, yeah, but I'm not going to have employees. You know what I mean? I'm going to just want to be a one person silo. I'm going to be my own LLC. That's what she says. And I was like, well, at least some of what I told you rubbed off on you because at least you know what an LLC is. So.
Yeah.
Did you break her the news, Ron? Tell her that she is, what is it called? An employee of the LLC, and she's 100% commission.
That's what. But I mean, we're a tattoo family, so like that's. I mean, she loves it. What I love about it is, I think what they learned from us is go do it.
Mhm.
Like, just go do it. Go fail. I mean, we've had some businesses fail. Like, I don't bat 1,000. You know, I tried a couple things on my own outside the sphere of franchising. That didn't work out. I mean, it cost me some money too. Like, but we tried it, we did it, and we're franchisees. That's who we are. That's how my wife and I make our way in the world. We tried some other things, they didn't work out. But I think the kids are following. They're not necessarily wanting to be entrepreneurs, but at least they have the drive to be like, I don't care if I have to spend 4 or 5 years in a PhD program before I ever make any money, and I have to get by on $32,000 a year. That's what I'm going to do because that's what I want to do. That excites me for them, right? Because that brings me joy that they're just chasing down what it is that they want to do and never ever feeling like there's something that they have to do.
And I feel like that is the most important thing that you can teach them. The things that you're saying that they want to do, even though it's not having the title of entrepreneur, it's all the skills that you just talked about making you successful and then the entrepreneur spectrum. And they're applying those exact same things, but possibly in a different way. But that's what's more important.
And don't tell your
Right.
son, if he goes to be a clinical psychologist, he may somewhere be self-employed again because he may have his own practice.
I,
Don't
Ye-
tell him that.
I don't think either one of them know that at this juncture right now. But I mean, if my daughter becomes a tattoo artist, I'm secretly going to be like, okay, we're buying this space and we're going to have 6 chairs and we're going to lease the other ones out, right? Like I've already got a business plan festering in the back of my brain.
Spoiler alert.
So can you circle back? You mentioned that, you and your wife had tried a couple other things as well. And what those were doesn't really matter, but you spoke highly of the franchise model. It works. You said we're franchisees. And
Yes.
obviously you've got business success. So with that already in place, what is it about the franchise model to driving that success?
Well, it's because I'm a terrible artist because I have no creativity, but I'm amazing at color by numbers. I crush it. Like I can stay inside the lines. I can make sure that I follow the directions. So I love franchising, and it takes me all the way back to the late '80s and Days of Thunder when Tom Cruise looked and said, NASCAR, all the cars are the same, so I don't get beat by other cars. I only get beat by other drivers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, like that, just give me a level playing field, right? And I will figure out mechanisms inside of that playing field to try to get myself to the top of that heap. Now, again, now winning's not as important to me as long as I'm finding joy in the job and it's finding its own level of success. It doesn't need to be the most successful, but I love the framework. I love working inside the framework. I like having a blueprint. I think some people have a misunderstanding about franchising equals inflexibility. That's not true. It's not true. It's true when you have no experience and you've only started 5 minutes ago and you're trying to rewrite the ops manual. Like, don't be that guy. Like, nobody likes that guy, right? But once you understand it and start to figure it out, start to test some things in these locations and get to understand it, professionally bring it to your brand, they'll listen. They want it. Your FBC wants you to do better too. That's how they get paid. Like everybody's in it together. So I think it's just about how you approach it and how you look at it. And if you are truly creative, then go create. Franchising's probably not for you, right? That's one of the first things I try to figure out with any client. Are you like really creative? Because if so, you don't want to be in a box. I like the box. I just like to poke at the box.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I like the winning recipe starting off with,
Yeah. I know it works, right? It should work. It's replicatable, it's duplicatable. Sometimes I roll the dice a little bit more on emerging brands so that you're not as sure about it because, there's not as many locations. But I like emerging spaces because I kind of actually I probably do better in chaos than I do in order. You know what I mean? Like I like a little bit of chaos.
We'll keep that in mind when we have some. We'll invite you to the party.
That's right.
For sure.
I'm down.
So, and it's such good wisdom and nuggets here. And I like just the real conversation, like rule it in, rule it out, may not be for everybody. I always tell people in business, the fear you feel is real. The reasons may not be, because they're nervous. They're writing big checks. They're doing big
Right.
things, making moves, maybe haven't had employees and done all this stuff. but the system, the ecosystem supports them. And I really hear that. So much so, I mean, talk a little bit about your expansion. You got a lot of, when you're talking about multi units, tell people what that means and what kind of specifically to you that you're expanding right now.
Well, I mean, we're hardwired for risk assessment, right? Like that's how human beings are hardwired. So we're constantly have to remind ourselves, like, imagine what it would be like if things go right. Right? Because we don't tell ourselves that,
Yeah,
right? We
right.
kind of immediately risk assess and say, what if things go wrong? So, I tell people all the time, perfect is the enemy of growth. And that's the hardest thing to get over when you're trying to grow is you think everything needs to be this picturesque, amazing, replicatable. That's not what it is, right? And the reason I'm not afraid to grow and scale and sign multi-unit agreements and everything like that is because I know there's going to be one location, my flagship, and it's going to run like a Swiss watch, right?
Mhm.
Every other location could potentially be like a Xerox copy of a Xerox copy. So it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a little worse, but it's still going to be good, right? Like, so, people get hyper focused on like, what are the margins? Man, you don't deposit margins, you deposit cash. Like, you pay bills with money. So if you can open multiple locations, maybe location 6 isn't as efficient and effective as your baby and your flagship, but how does it cash flow? Right? Like,
Mhm.
and then you can work and tweak on the things to try to improve that. It's not like you're ever going to stop. There's no stopping, but you can't let yourself get bogged down in the fact that all of these things are going to if you're going to get bogged down in that, then you aren't buying a business, you're buying a job. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with owning one location, being there all the time, and making sure that thing runs. You might have one of the best locations in the system. Like that,
Mhm.
that's totally possible. But if you're going to scale it, you got to live with a little bit of degradation. You just have to get comfortable with it. Talk to your therapist. I don't know what all you need to do, but you got to work it out.
There's something to be said for that, taking that leap of faith.
Yeah, I think so too. So, and when you're talking about cash flow and profits, what's something that you've seen, and this might even be with talking with other people, but that they spent money on and it just wasn't a good decision?
A lot of it depends on your industry, right? I think the hardest thing in today's environment is really trying to evaluate whether or not you're getting value out of your digital marketing. The digital marketing companies can give you the greatest pitch and they can talk about pixels and clicks and all. I mean, it sounds terrific. And then there are just sometimes where I'm like, "Wait, is this really working?"
Yeah.
It's just it's so hard and so difficult because, did it come in organically because somebody saw it and then they told somebody else, so technically it did come from digital. That's the one to me where if you're not careful as a business owner, your digital ad spend can really get away from you if you're not really minding the store. Like it can, because it sounds great, and before you know it, like you're 2 numbers in front of the comma, and that money's just gone like that. So
We hear
you
that
gotta
a
be really
lot.
careful.
Yes, I was going to say
Yeah.
that's so important for the audience to hear because I think that that's the number one place that people are told to spend money, right? If they're not meeting their sales quotas or what their revenue, that's where they're told to make a change.
Right. And it's the biggest question mark. And I'm dating myself. I'm talking about this. Will they still sell billboards? I'm like, I'll keep billboards just for the record. But they'll go, hey, listen, I've had clients come in and tell me it's 100,000 views a day. And I'm going, do you think they're driving down the road and go, I'm gonna get that's the dentist I want? It sounds good, like you said, but what's the ROI on it, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's the hardest thing to pin anybody down on. Right. So, anybody that's struggling that comes to me, the first thing I tell them to do before they start really looking at like advertising and marketing and all that, I'm like, is your house in order? Like, how are your ops? Like, mystery shop your stores. Right. I had an edible owner come to me one time and like, how do I do the same volume you're doing? I'm like, let me check. So I called his store at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're supposed to take same day delivery orders till 5 p.m. Okay. And if somebody turned away a delivery order before 5 p.m. and they worked for me, they got fired. It was a non-negotiable, it was a termination. Like, you're out. I called his store at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and they said they were done taking deliveries for the day.
Rude.
So I called him back and I was like, here's an idea. Take everybody's order. That will bolster your revenue. Like, That's not hard, right? So that's like the first thing I tell everybody to like dial in on, because we all have a tendency to look at our staff and our teams a little rose colored and think that they're doing everything that you want them to do. And don't get me wrong, I had some wonderful employees and they executed great. But if they're not an owner, they're not an owner. It's
Mhm.
you just have to come. That's the truth. What was it? President Reagan used to say, "Trust but verify." That's what he used to say with the Russians, like trust but verify.
So, and anyone listening has heard your expertise, Ron. It's not just that you're confident or you come across charismatic, but the knowledge that you share is like, I want to know more about that. So, we don't usually have franchisees on that have any other way that people can learn from them, but that's not the
Mhm,
case with you. So, can you tell us a little bit about Franchise Authentic, and
mhm.
maybe if people are like, man, Ron's really got it together, how can you help them through Franchise Authentic?
Well, we do a number of different things at Franchise Authentic from a consulting standpoint. Like if you have a business that you think is doing really, really well and it may lend itself to franchising, we can evaluate that business and let you know whether or not it is. If you have your own business or a franchise location and you don't feel like it's performing to the level at which you think it should be, then you obviously we can help you that. We can break down numbers. We can look at just the overall culture of the organization, and more so than anything else, we can just give you things to think about, right? Like how it, because just hearing other people's perspective and how to look at things a little bit differently is so invaluable. If you are stuck in a corporate job that you don't love and you want to explore franchising as an avenue for where you go, the best thing about what I do is I don't sell anything. I'm not a salesperson. I don't sell. I simply am a matchmaker. I try to find the right people and align them with the right brands. And then I let franchise development do the selling, right? I don't sell. And I had a guy who went through an entire process with a brand, got to the very, very end. They wanted him to sign the franchise agreement. I said, you know what? Before you do, let's have one more validation call with a franchisee, and I'm going to join your validation call. We got on that call and we listened to validation from this franchisee, and he hung up the phone. And I looked at him. I said, I wouldn't sign that agreement. I don't think it's a good emotional fit for you and your family. I think you'd regret it. And he didn't
That's
sign. I
yeah.
mean, and that's 3 or 4 months of work for me just down the drain immediately. But his personal well being is way more important to me than like a commission check. Like I'm just not doing. That's the special place about where I'm at in my life. If you're really looking for a franchise or looking to think to maybe make your business into a franchise, between myself and my business partner, we have a lot of expertise in a lot of different areas that we could probably point you in the right direction.
So late. So thank you, Ron, for all the wisdom, the experience, and just telling it like it is. Like this is the good, this is the bad, this is kind of ugly. I appreciate
Hence
that.
the name, right?
So I'm gonna let you close out with something you think is powerful, words of wisdom. This is Ron's moment. What would you like to close the show with and share with our audience?
My life changed when I just decided to take the leap and go into business for myself. I would encourage anybody that feels like they're suffocating in a job, don't be afraid to make a change. Even if you keep the job and start something on the side, whatever you may do, you'll feel so much better about yourself if you just start. That's the hardest thing, right? Like just begin with whatever it may be, any type of side hustle. If you want to go all in and do a business, then do it. If you want to get some partners together, then do it. I just, my parents are older now. So they're in an assisted living facility. I go to the assisted living facility and nobody sits around and talks about anything upset about what they did do. They only talk about the things that they're upset about that they didn't do. I mean, a nursing home and assisted living is filled with people, and all they talk about is regret, the things that they didn't do. So I spend every waking moment figuring out, like, how can I just tell fun stories when I'm in the assisted living one day? And I don't want to tell people, like, man, I really wish I would have started that, place with the cold plunge and the sauna. I thought it was a good idea. I don't ever want to tell those stories. So if you're there, if you're thinking about it, just just start, do something, take a calculated risk, just activate. You'll feel not only will you enjoy it, not only will you probably enjoy some success, you'll just feel better about yourself. Just go do it.
We are proud that today's episode was brought to us by Imperial Design and Display.
You know, Elizabeth, when you walk into a retail store and you see all the products, the merchandise, the racks, all that good stuff.
Yes, everything that distracts me.
There you go. That's what Imperial Design and Display does. They're a U.S. manufacturing company, which big for me, all right, made in the USA. They do everything from design, installation to program management. They get it done.
Yeah, and the caliber of brands that they work with is very impressive. Not trying to be a name dropper.
Drop some names.
Here we go. We're talking GameStop, Williams-Sonoma, Best Buy, Home Depot, Caribou Coffee, and some high caliber brands.
Right. And not only do they make it look good, it's functional and they're cost conscious.
Which we love. So we are proud to have them as one of our sponsors for the Built for Profit podcast. That is Imperial Design and Display.
And Elizabeth, I have to give a little shout out. I love a good tagline. They have a good tagline. Let's move at the speed of retail together. So imperialdesigndisplay.com and click on the link to get more information about Imperial Design Display.
We'll see you in the next episode.